We're still going to discuss with our second guest right here on Market Insight. So he's joining us via Zoom. So our second guest is Barbs Pawuru. He's the president of Host Communities Network of Nigeria, HOCON. He's also a petroleum engineer, and he's also an environmental justice campaigner in the extractive industries and also which includes oil and gas, solid minerals, and forest host communities. So welcome to Market Insight, Barbs Pawuru.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you
can
join us this morning. So yes, we're talking about renewable energy in Nigeria. Yes, and we know at the moment there have been options for this. There have been so much talk about having renewable energy as our main source because it's also cleaner, our main supplier of electricity in Nigeria. Now, the renewable energy revolution in Nigeria. Now, how can investment in renewable energy create more jobs in our economy?
So much. Before I answer your question on renewable energy, you will discover that energy all over the world has been the driver of economies. You see the countries of the global north, they get energy accessibility and energy security because they want to develop their economies. So also it is with the renewable energy revolution. For now, the transition is going from renewable fossil fuel to renewable energy, because fossil fuel sources energy sources is considered dirty and it's affecting the global environment. So renewable energy is gradually taking over. What albeit in Nigeria, the issue of renewable energy revolution has not actually started, except recently I read that at Shiroro there is going on a company, an agreement has been signed between the government and a private sector in producing and generating 20 megawatts of energy from Shiroro. That is a good development. But I also want to tell that if that program or project can be sustained, I tell you, many others in Nigeria will join the renewable energy revolution. The only way we are using renewable energy in Nigeria is by using the solar voltaic energy that panels that we use at home. Those ones are not good enough. They are not strong enough. That is only for domestic purpose. But for industrial purpose, to drive our economy, to make our economy stronger, to make our economy robust, we need to take the energy generated from renewable energy source onto the national grid. And that is what is happening in Shiroro now. And it's a very good and welcome development. So renewable energy sources in Nigeria are so great and big, but we have not started tapping them. We pray that the government will improve their renewable energy policies so as to attract investors into that area of our economy.
Okay, so yes, but looking at the factor of investments in the renewable energy sector, like you rightfully mentioned, when we see solar panels, people using solar panels is mostly used for in domestic homes, is mostly used for domestic use mostly. So, but you're looking at it as an option for in offices and manufacturing industries, and I believe that will require more investment, maybe investments from foreigners and a more partnership between the government and also private companies to achieve this. So, what are your thoughts on this, Mr. Pawuru?
About what is going on in Shiroro now, the public-private partnership agreement that was recently signed. You see, there is the government agency, the National Sovereign Investment Authority, which is the government policy maker in that field. Then there's also this private sector, the North-South Power Company, which is the driver, the actual operator of the company. So they want to produce as much as 300 to 600 megawatts of energy, which they are going to transmit, we are going to set up into the national grid. If they are able to do that, then the industries, not only domestic, the industries in Nigeria will have so much energy to drive their industrial growth. So that is a very welcome development. Thereafter, after this pilot project succeeds, if it succeeds at all, if it succeeds, it means other investors will be attracted to that area, and so thereby creating more income for Nigeria and developing Nigeria's economy.
Okay. Now, okay, before we talk about solutions and all of that, first of all, let's talk about challenges now. What are the biggest challenges to scaling up renewable energy production in Nigeria, first of all? It's not something that, like you rightfully mentioned, it's not too popular using renewable energy for commercial purposes, actually. So what are the biggest challenges that we face here in Nigeria to scaling up renewable energy production?
We have the renewable energy sources. We have the wind there. We have the solar. We have everything as renewable energy source. But the problem is the technology to harness, the technology to tap, to learn to generate this renewable energy from the source is the problem Nigeria is facing. So, for example, we have geothermal. Geothermal energy is not much in Nigeria. But we have the waves, we have the winds, we have the sea waves and sea winds. We have the solar, but we don't have the technology to generate the energy from this solar energy and renewable energy sources. That is the problem. So it is the technology that is the major problem. Howbeit, if Nigeria could make its energy policy attractive to investors from other parts of the world, then I think the technology to will be brought to Nigeria to harness this renewable energy from the source. So it is the technology.
Okay, yes, I understand what you're saying. So, and apart from that, do you also think we need to educate people more on this renewable energy alternative, actually? Because most of the time we have people using our generators to power up whatever machinery they need for commercial purpose, and also even in our homes for domestic use too. So we need more education on this, on the advantages of renewable energy and the fact that it's also a cleaner means of providing electricity. Yes, Mr. Pawuru, what are your thoughts on this?
But unfortunately, we do not have the technology here yet. For example, in my village, we have been able to take some biomass, biomass stoves. We have some biomass stoves they use in cooking. I've taken many of them down, and they are buying them instead of going to get a gas from the city, which they don't even have available. I took the biomass stove, and they are using them because the villagers are closer to the biomass around that area. So we use the biomass stove for domestic purpose. There are some other photovoltaic cells that they also use for domestic purpose. They are valuable, but not as much as we want them. So we want to. I want to my people all around Nigeria to start using this biomass stove that is readily available in the market, and also these photovoltaic cells that they call solar panels. They help a lot.
Okay. First off, I want to ask you, what are these biomass tools, actually, if I'm correct with the pronunciation? And then how can renewable energy contribute to reducing poverty in developing countries? I would use Nigeria as a case study for that. So first off, what are these biomass tools, and how can renewable energy contribute to reducing poverty in developing countries?
Yes. Biomass tool, I told you, help to reduce poverty, because once you have it, one, it is energy efficient. Two, it is very, very cheap. It is not as expensive as the gas cylinder and the gas cooker or the gas that you buy from the market. The gas cylinder itself is very expensive in the first case. Then the gas you buy for now, the gas is very expensive. Gas recently when we want to buy gas was just 1,400 to 1,500, very, very expensive for one kilo. But for the biomass stove, you just get the stove maybe at a cost of say 2,000, 3,000. Then get the biomass very cheaply from all around. Then you start using it, and in fact, it does not produce much CO2. In fact, it does not emit CO2. So these are some of the things that we should be using, and they are very, very efficient, very cheap, and very clean.
We know that in the rural areas, not just, Lagos is an urban center, but in the rural areas, we know most host communities are not, yes, they have the use of natural sources like sunlight, water, wind, yes, but they don't know how to tap into these energies. And in addition, the government hasn't really given them those options to tap into the use of renewable energies for their day-to-day electricity consumption. So in what ways would you recommend the government to get the communities in rural areas into the using renewable energy for their day-to-day electricity use? Yes, Mr. Pawuru.
Like I told you, the only source of renewable energy use now is those photovoltaic cells that they call solar panels. They come in various sizes. There are the smaller ones, there are the big ones that you can install in your house. If there is no electricity from the national grid, you can make use of those ones. But see, the most important thing is not even the electricity, because we consume electricity, we know. What our domestic use of cooking gas is even more causing more problem than even the electricity we use. That cooking gas itself is not environment friendly. That is why we recommend this biomass stove. This biomass stove is very, very good. No, we know most of the big men, the rich people will not want to make use of it, but it's very, very good for our people, especially those in the rural area. In Lagos, you said yes, it's an urban area and they might not want to use it, but they can also tap into the use of these photovoltaic cells that they call solar panels. Solar panels will be good for their electricity generation for domestic use.
Okay, yes, okay. Now, how can the economic benefits of renewable energy development be distributed equitably to avoid existing social inequalities? As you know, there are existing social inequalities in terms of the use of solar panel. Like I mentioned earlier on, is not too common when you go deep into some villages or communities which are not too well developed. Well, how can we end this inequality with renewable energy?
Thank you. You see, the other source of renewable energy is the small hydro electricity power. Small hydro, not the large ones. See, in one of my papers I presented somewhere in Ghana, I recommended that there should be clusters of communities. And within these clusters of communities, these small hydroelectric power should generate electricity, to be used to generate electricity for a cluster of communities. Not the large dams that are not environment friendly, but the smaller dams for cluster maybe 10, 20 communities, and they start generating electricity for these communities. For the small hydroelectric generation is also void. That is hydro. Small hydro, not the big ones, not like the one we have in Lando, not like the one we have in Siroro. Not those are too big, but a cluster of communities for small hydro dams. They can generate electricity for them without harming the environment.
President of the Host Communities Network of Nigeria, I'm sure you interact with a lot of communities that produce these natural resources, not just oil and gas, not like you rightfully mentioned, wind, with sunlight, with water actually. So are there ways your organization has actually been able to educate people in these communities as to the benefits of using the natural resources they have, or how they can come together to use these natural resources to develop their communities, and also to get perhaps the state governments and the local governments to join together and make these renewable energy resources available to people in these communities that have these natural resources in large quantities? Yes, Mr.
It might interest you to know that the energy produced from this host community, from fossil fuel, the people in the host community do not have access to it. They don't have access to this energy. This energy is secured and sent to the Western world. So they don't have access. The only access they have is those biomass I told you about, and the photovoltaic cells. The energy reproduced from fossil fuel is secured, carried, packaged, and through pipeline taken to the Western world to develop the global north, to develop the communities and cities and countries in the global north. For those communities that are actually suffering the impact of exploration and exploitation of oil and gas and solid minerals and so on and so forth, do not have access to the energy produced at their backyard. That is one of the dangerous effects of producing fossil fuel in our communities. That is why we recommend that the only way the people can have access to energy is through these renewable energy sources. One, I've mentioned having small hydro dam for the smaller cluster of communities so that they can generate electricity. Then not only that, they should have access to these small stoves, these biomass stoves. The biomass are all available around the communities. They can have access to this biomass. And they also can have these smaller photovoltaic cells that you call a solar panel. All these things will be readily available for the community and for the community people and Nigerians to benefit, rather than securing the energy produced in Nigeria, taking it to the global north, developing the economies of the global north, and making those of us in the global south poorer, the communities poorer, the nations poorer. Everything in the global south is made poorer, and whereas the energy comes from the global south.
Okay, two questions I have for you, Mr. Pawuru. Now, as the president of Host Communities Network of Nigeria, now, how does your organization educate people on renewable energy sources? That's what I want to know first of all. And then another question, like, do you just focus on people in the rural communities, or is your organization quite, are you also using that same, are you also using your resources to help people in urban centers too? I just want to know more about the host communities network of Nigeria.
Thank you so much. You see, like we told you, our focus is on communities where extractive activities are going on. 1, oil and gas. 2, solid minerals. 3, forest. If this extractive activity is going on in the urban area, they automatically become member of our host communities network. It is a network of communities. Here in the Niger Delta, we have over 3,000 to 5,000 communities, oil and gas, solid minerals, and forest. From Akwa Ibom to Ondo State, all these communities are so many. Even in the north, we have solid mineral communities. Abuja is Abuja where you live, or Lagos where you live. It's also there is sand there, there is mud there, there is clay there in Lagos. You don't automatically become a member of the host communities network. Abuja has solid minerals. Abuja is also a member, also the host community network. Wherever there is sand, sand is a solid mineral. Solid mineral. So anywhere you find sand, that community or that urban city, that metropolis automatically becomes a member of the host communities network. So we are not limited to the rural area or rural small communities, but all the communities in Nigeria, all the 30 states of Nigeria are part of our host communities network. Whatever you have forest, yes, because the forest products are also there. They are part of extractive industry. They are part of our host communities network. So there are so much injustice going on in these communities, going on in these areas. In the forest host communities, so much injustice from the federal government and the oil companies or the companies operating in those communities. There are so much injustice has been, social injustice, health injustice, economic injustice unleashed on the people. These are the injustices we call the government to address. So much has been done to the Niger Delta. You know what happened in Ogoni land when Ken Sariwa was fighting for environmental justice. You see, a lot of hard work has been done in the Niger Delta. The whole of the Niger Delta environment is degraded and spoiled. We are even asking the federal government to address the issue of the Niger Delta by doing what is called environmental audit. Do the audit of the environment. Right now, the oil companies are divesting into the deep offshore. They are leaving everything. They are spoiled the Niger Delta environment. They are divesting into the deep offshore. We are asking the federal government, no, this people cannot just divest and leave the problem with us. They have externalized the problem of all the extractive activities on the host communities in the Niger Delta, and the people are suffering. We are asking the government to, all these oil companies and even the federal government, to account for the destruction, colossal destruction they have done to our environment. They have done socially, they are dead to our fishes, biodiversity, everything that they have destroyed. They should pay, they should be accounted, they should call to pay for it before they divert into the deep offshore. And this is one of our fights. So our fight for justice for the host communities is not limited to small village rural communities. Anywhere there are extractive activities going on, we are fighting. Anywhere there is forest, we are fighting. Anywhere there is solid mineral, we are fighting. Anywhere there is oil and gas, we are fighting. So the whole of Nigeria and all the cities and communities and villages are part of our network. Because of the dangerous impact, the destructive impact of fossil fuel sources, we have been advocating, even as we do the advocate for environmental justice, we have been advocating to our people in our communities to begin to transit from the use of fossil fuel to renewable energy sources. And we again in this program, I have recommended some. The biomass stove I recommended for the rural people to cook. And we also have the photovoltaic cells that they call solar panels. We recommend for them. And I told you that the people, if the local people don't even have access to the energy produced at their backyard, this energy is secured and taken to the global north for their development. The only way we can get access to energy is through renewable energy source, and like the small hydro dam that I mentioned, not the big ones that are not environment friendly, but the small hydro dam that the government can build for a cluster of communities to provide electricity. That is one way. And again, we have the photovoltaics, as I told you, that we call solar panel, that can also be used, leveraged into for domestic use. We also have the biomass stove for cooking. Instead of using your cooking gas, you use biomass stove. It's environment friendly. It does not emit CO2. So these are some of the recommendations we make to our communities each time we hold meetings, apart from the environmental justice struggle that we take up with the corporations, the companies, and the government.
Okay. Now, okay, yes. Okay, yeah. I also want to ask you now, we know, yes, the United Nations organization has been campaigning for more African countries to move to the option of cleaner energy, cleaner renewable energy. Now, how can we, considering that balancing environmental and economic considerations, now can developing countries achieve large-scale renewable energy adoption without compromising on environmental sustainability goals?
Yeah, if they want, they can. But unfortunately, the leaders from these they are developed countries will not want to. Developing countries also are taking a cue from the developed countries. The developed countries cause all the problems and send the problems down to the developing countries. So the developing countries get their cue, they take a cue from what is happening in the developed countries. So it will be very, very difficult for the developing countries to say, oh, we are not going to go the way of fossil fuel. It will be difficult because the leaders, the people that are destroying the environment, are actually from the global north, the developed countries. But the developing countries are actually bearing the brunt of all the activities that are going on in the global north. Developing countries can leverage on the renewable energy drive now, but even when they leverage, they don't have the resources, they don't have the technology to actually leverage so much into that part of that aspect of energy production, renewable energy. They still depend on the global north to provide them the technology they need for that purpose.
Okay, but I actually asked, I said, without compromising on environmental and sustainability goals, actually, how can developing countries, for example, Nigeria, achieve large-scale renewable energy adoption, actually, without compromising on a cleaner and healthier environment?
The renewable energy sources are environment friendly. For example, the solar energy is environment friendly. Wind energy is environment friendly. Biomass energy is environment friendly. Even geothermal energy is environment friendly. That is why it is called clean energy source. So if we are able to transit in Nigeria to renewable energy source, it's as good as we have achieved the environmental justice that we actually need. What is causing the environmental injustice is from fossil fuel, destroying our environment. But if we are able to transit from fossil fuel usage to renewable energy sources, just which we have readily available in Nigeria, we talked about the ocean current, we talked about the ocean wind, we talked about the hydroelectric power, smaller hydroelectric power, we talked about geothermal, we talked about nuclear, all of them are there. We talked about solar. We have sun every day, every second of the day, in every week. So we have the sources, but it's technology to harness, technology to tap, technology to generate the solar energy itself is what, the renewable energy itself is what these developing countries do not have access to technologies.
Thank you very much for joining me this morning on Market Insight, Mr. Barbs Pawuru, the president of the Host Communities Network of Nigeria and an environmental justice campaigner, which includes extractive industries, communities with extractive industries like oil and gas, solid minerals, and forest host communities. We look forward to having you on Market Insight again. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Okay, so let's look at the parallel market figures for today and the official CBN rates figures for today, 25th March 2024. Let's look at the selling rate of the dollars, the pound sterling, and the euro. So for today, 25th March, the dollars is at the CBN rate is selling for 1,323 naira, and in the parallel markets, it's selling for 1,480 naira. So that's a difference of 157 naira, I beg your pardon, with the dollar selling rate. And in the pound sterling, the selling rate at the CBN is 1,688 naira, and in the parallel market is 2,000 naira, a difference of 312 naira for the pound sterling between the parallel market rates and the Central Bank of Nigeria rate. And the euro is selling for 1,450 naira at the CBN rate, and in the parallel market it's selling for 1,650 naira, which leads to a difference between the CBN rate and the parallel market rate of 200 naira for the euro. So the figures are actually quite reducing. They're reducing right now between the parallel market and the CBN rates. As you know, the CBN rates are normally lower than the parallel market rates. So yeah, so those are our official CBN rates and parallel market rates for today, 25th March 2024. Again, that's our time today on Market Insights. As we talked to two of our guests, we reviewed the stock market this morning with Mohammed Jamiu Kayode, and he gave us his speculations, his opinions, what he expects, how the markets will trade this week with only 4 working days. And then he said he expects that the markets will end on a positive note. And we also spoke to Mr. Barbs Pawuru, who is the president of the Host Communities Network of Nigeria, on the Renewable Energy Revolution for economic development in Nigeria and other developing countries across the world. And he did share some insights as to how more communities need to tap into the use of natural resources for their electricity consumption. So thank you so much for joining me on Market Insight this morning. I am your host, Lavina Emma. Stay tuned to the next program on Souk News.